Hello and a very warm welcome to ET Studios at the ET Brand Equity DigiPlus Fest 2024 powered by Epsilon. I'm your host Hemanshi Tewari. Now in this session I'm joined in by two ladies. Please join me in welcoming Harleen Bhati, Vice President D2C at Wellbeing Nutrition, and Simrat Sawhney, Vice President Sales for Asia Market at Epsilon. Thank you so much ladies for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, starting with first question to kick things off, let's talk about mindful and meaningful customer engagement in retail. So, how do you think, how do you define mindful and meaningful customer engagement in retail in practice, if I may ask? Starting with you, Harleen.
So I think mindful and meaningful interaction would, for me, start with a very effective understanding of the consumer, right, and the consumer requirement, and then putting our content across to the user, right, for it to then start adding value in terms of what the user was looking for. So I think that's where I would call it the baby steps for.
All right. How do you define that, Simrat?
I would say that it would be combining the power of hyper-personalization while being respectful to the user. So not being intrusive, not being spammy, and not bombarding the user, and being privacy conscious. So, really being conscious of how first-party data is being leveraged for that end state of personalization while keeping in mind the user's privacy.
All right. Now, starting with the topic, Harleen, I want to come to you. I want to ask this, how do you sort of strike a balance between your long-term brand equity with driving immediate performance outcomes across the marketing funnel?
Got it. So I think for this, my quick answer for this is you need bread on the table, right? Having said that, you can't let go of your long-term vision. So for me, bread on the table is that performance marketing where you measure your ROAS, you're spending money, you're reaching out to the users. Partly transactional method, but brand building is where you're looking at your long-term goals, where you're looking at building that brand love for a user, the advocacy, wherein at the end of the day your dependency on performance marketing, right, reduces to a larger extent. Users would buy you for the brand that you are, than just because you've seen certain amount of advertisements, you've seen them digitally, but it's about being on top of the mind for the user. So hence across the nature of life cycle you are in as an organization, whether you are just starting up to being a mid-size to being a large organization, that spend mix, where what you're doing on your performance versus brand needs to keep changing. I think, and brand as a strategy, long-term strategy, needs to keep having increasing focus. So, yeah.
All right. And on that note, I'll come to you, Simrat. See, Epsilon works with retailers and brands to optimize both their offsite and on-site market offerings, right? So can you share how different solutions at Epsilon, like Epsilon Digital or Epsilon Accelerate, support personalized engagement in this regard, maybe from driving awareness to boosting conversions?
Yeah. So Epsilon's solutions are built to maximize the customer experience and customer returns across the customer journey. So with Epsilon Digital, we empower brands to activate their first-party data through media across the open web in a highly targeted, highly personalized manner, whereby we are able to drive outcomes from branding to consideration to conversion. With Epsilon Accelerate, we are able to offer on-site personalization as well as conversion rate optimization to boost the overall performance of the brand's own website. So this is by improving site retention, time spent on site, by improving the enhancements on the product pages, by improving recommendations, addressing abandoned cart users differently from users who are dropping off maybe at a category page, so on and so forth. And Epsilon Retail Media actually helps multi-brand retailers amplify the power of their digital storefront and allows them to actually drive monetization through their brand partners. So with this, what happens is that we are able to power co-branded initiatives and co-branded marketing campaigns both on the retailer's website and app, as well as in the open web. So all these solutions work together to really create a cohesive customer journey, allowing brands to talk to the right customer at the right time with the right message and on the right platform.
Right, thank you for sharing that. And coming to you, Harleen, you deal in a segment that is that demands education, right? You have to spend a lot on education and awareness for your customers
Yeah.
as well. But with the evolving digital space, like how do you understand your consumers? How do you leverage data to create that seamless customer experiences across channels? And if there are any gaps or challenges that you want to share with us?
Got it. So I think one, building that seamless experience is very progressive in terms of the times that we live in. How we go about doing that is understanding, like she very well said, the first party data.
Hmm.
Who's a user, who's interacted with us at a digital ad front, landed on our page, then installed our app, is, viewing certain products, adding them to cart, removing from cart,
Yeah.
right? The entire gamut of things. So everything that you do, if I would call it in a nutshell, your digital footprint, right? Once you understand the digital footprint of a user, you could almost, mind read them in terms of knowing what is going behind Harleen's mind. Why is she adding or not adding a certain product? And hence the entire online experience, right, from the products that you recommend, the ones that they buy, your post purchase recommendations to them, all of that would get hyper personalized,
Hmm.
right? So once that gets hyper personalized, that's when a user starts seeing value, that yes, this brand understands me, this brand knows my requirements.
Yeah.
Because especially in a health and wellness, each user is on a very, very different journey in
Yeah.
terms of where they are, and hence as a brand we are trying to understand them as closely. I think some of the challenges which we might face in this area, like you asked, would be in spaces where um, mapping of users digitally, the digital footprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are places where that gets broken,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are where, I would say we could take on good assumptions that yes, if a user is landing here and moving to a next landing page, possibly these could be the assumptions, but and my assumption would be as good as somebody else's. So those are places which are still white gaps for us as a D2C brand, and where we are looking for experts' helps, right, to bridge the patches and have the 360-degree view.
Thank you for sharing that. And you both were talking about first party data, right? So at Epsilon, Simrat, how do you sort of help the brands activate their data to sort of deliver the measurable results?
So actually, we help do exactly what Harleen has identified as a challenge. See, every brand has a view of their customer's digital footprint, but that's a partial view because you won't be able to track what the user is doing outside of your brand's properties on the open web. Where Epsilon comes in with our unified identity resolution is we actually help bridge that gap of a consumer's view across channels and across devices. So obviously, as one of the largest DSPs globally, we are privy to a lot more customer data, more cookies, more information out there in the ecosystem than any single
Yeah,
brand would
yeah.
be. And the true power of personalization can be activated when we marry a brand's first party data with what we would know from our perspective about a consumer,
Hmm.
layer that on top, and that's where the power of core ID comes in, which is
Yeah.
actually our identity resolution technology. And we then take that to the next level by activating that data, whether that's through media or through the on-site
Mm-hmm.
personalization piece that I
Mm-hmm.
spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to tie that whole story back to data and leveraging data with really sharp targeting, with precise targeting and measurement is how we help brands activate their first party
So
data.
does it help you for the privacy first environments also?
Yes, so obviously our technology is completely GDPR compliant. We are very conscious of making sure that data is used in a highly privacy safe manner. And even just the way the interaction of the data will take place between a brand as well as Epsilon, it goes through an exercise of anonymization and hashing. And without getting into technical terms, that is an industry standard that we follow, whereby you should not have to worry about consumers' privacy or any kind of data leakage. And the other thing is, then we actually work with brands and advise them on how you drive personalization, but without coming across as being privacy intrusive or evading
Hmm.
someone's privacy. So your creative or your message or the way you are communicating, the time, the number of the frequency of the campaigns, each of those things are also built on tenets of privacy.
All right, thank you so much for sharing that. And coming back to you, Harleen, in your category, what are those two priority things to deliver a seamless customer experience? Like, what are those two priorities for you?
I think for customer experience, like I think we've been discussing on the entire personalization of the
Yeah.
the journey the user has pre post purchase, right? Um, the other is the product itself, right? So you might just have the best buying experience with us, but what you get in your hands, the physical product that the brand has delivered to you, that needs to meet and rather beat your expectations. I think that is where the real customer experience delight would come from. So the
Right.
experience and the product itself.
Experience and the product.
Yeah.
Personalization as
Absolutely.
well, right? Coming to you, as we are wrapping up this conversation, Simrit, you've been working with a lot of brands, right? What do you think, like, what these brands prioritize when it comes to building a seamless customer experience?
I think, much like what Harleen has said, first thing that every brand is trying to prioritize today is that customer experience. And I would say customer experience is all encompassing. It's everything from the brand's media or marketing strategy. So that's obviously how the customer experiences the communication of the brand, all the way to the product itself or the service in case of a service industry client, right? So I think overall customer experience and how brands are talking to customers in a one-on-one fashion, in that really highly relevant and personalized fashion, is one area of it. And the second thing is, I think brands are becoming very sharp and intelligent about leveraging technology and data in smarter ways, whether that is through buzzwords of AI or machine learning, or it's through some really fundamental things where you really need to really understand data analytics better. You need to understand the performance of your creatives better, invest in A/B testing, invest in incrementality testing, understand which channel is performing better than others, not just on an old school last click basis, but even understand what is the incremental value that one media channel is driving versus another through a test and control methodology. I think those types of sharp technology solutions are where I'm seeing a lot of brands invest their time and money.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your views. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos only at ET Studios.